Edward and I have been married for 8 years, and we've been together for 10. We have daughter Lily, who's 5. We met through mutual friends at a cozy wine bar downtown when we were both in our early 20s, and honestly, I always thought we had a strong relationship, the kind other people look at and say, I want that. Olivia came into my life about 6 years ago. She moved to this area for work, and we met at the cafe, where I went every morning for coffee. She started coming over all the time, knew everything about my life, was there when Lily was born, and showed up for every birthday and holiday. She didn't have family nearby, so we basically made her part of our family. Edward got along with her too, which I thought was great. It meant all of us could hang out together without tension. But I didn't find out about any of this through some dramatic phone call like in the movies. It was much more pathetic than that. About a month ago, I was searching for a portable charger Edward had bought for road trips. I checked all the usual spots, the glove compartment, the center console, and then remembered the storage under the passenger seat, which I almost never open because it's usually full of useless stuff. I opened it and found a phone. Not his main phone, a completely different one in a different case. I stared at it for a minute, trying to understand why my husband would hide another phone in the car. At first, I thought maybe it was an old phone he forgot about. But when I pressed the power button, it turned on. The battery was almost fully charged, and there were recent notifications. One of them was from a contact saved as just, oh. The message read something like, can't stop thinking about last Monday with a kiss emoji at the end. I froze, holding that phone for what must have been 10 minutes. My hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped it. Part of me wanted to put it back and pretend I never saw it because deep down I think I already suspected. But I couldn't. I had to know. The passcode, our wedding date, which is awful when you think about it. The messages went back 3 years. And every single one was to Olivia. Not casual texts either. Real relationship stuff. Plans to meet when I thought Edward was working late or with friends. Inside jokes. Future plans. And yes, intimate stuff too, which I won't get into because I still feel sick just thinking about it. The part that really broke me was how much they talked about me. About feeling guilty sometimes, but also about thinking I was too focused on Lily to notice. How Edward felt unappreciated. Olivia said she tried to feel guilty, but couldn't because she truly believed they were meant to be together. There were messages from where they were literally mapping out when Edward could leave me. They planned to wait until Lily was in school full-time to make it easier. They discussed being careful about how they'd come out as a couple so people wouldn't judge them harshly. They had been planning this for years. For years. While Olivia sat at my kitchen table listening to me talk about my marriage. While she helped me pick out anniversary gifts for Edward. While she told me how lucky I was to have him. I screenshot everything. I sat in that car for nearly 3 hours going through every conversation, every photo they shared. I emailed all of it to myself and a backup account and saved it to the cloud. Then I put the phone back exactly where I found it because I needed time to think. The next few days were the hardest of my life. Acting normal around Edward while knowing everything. Seeing Olivia's name pop up in our group chat about her housewarming party and having to respond like everything was fine. I hadn't told anyone yet because I wanted to make sure I had a plan. I called a lawyer to understand my options. I quietly started gathering financial documents and making copies of important papers. But I couldn't stop reading the messages over and over. There were messages where Edward told her he loved her, and she said it back. Ones where they laughed about how clueless I was. One from day before I found the phone, where Olivia asked when they could meet next, and Edward said he'd come up with an excuse. Her party was that Sunday. She invited maybe 30 people, our friends, her coworkers, a few neighbors. At first, I thought I'd skip it and confront them alone, but the more I thought, the angrier I got. They had been lying to everyone, not just me. Everyone believed Olivia was a sweet single woman, and Edward was the devoted husband and father. And I was supposed to let them keep that up while they destroyed my life? No way. If they wanted to act fake, I would too, until I couldn't anymore. The party started at 8. I arrived around 8:30, wanting to catch them after setup. Edward had come earlier, saying he was helping Olivia. I thought he was just being nice. Now I know it was their alone time. He was by the bar with Olivia and a few others when I walked in. He saw me and smiled, waved, pretending everything was normal. Olivia came over, hugged me, told me she was glad I came. I hugged her back and waited an hour for the other guests to arrive. Emily and Hannah arrived around 9 with their husbands. Olivia's co-workers, neighbors, and others joined. Wine flowed, People laughed, and I stood there feeling like I was about to explode. I pulled Emily aside and asked if she noticed anything off between Edward and Olivia. She looked confused. I told her to just watch them for a bit. She agreed, looking concerned. By 10 o'clock, I couldn't hold it. Olivia was opening gifts, Edward standing right next to her, helping hand her presents like they were already a couple. Something in me snapped. I didn't yell. My voice was calm when I spoke. I waited for a pause and said that before she opened another gift, everyone should know Olivia had been sleeping with my husband for 3 years. Edward immediately protested. Olivia looked like she might faint. I pulled out my phone and read the messages aloud. The ones about me being oblivious. The ones planning to wait until Lily was older. The ones where Edward told her he loved her. Olivia cried, claiming I was taking it out of context. Edward talked over me, insisting the messages weren't what they seemed. I laughed. Because what else could "I love you so much" or "here's a picture of exactly what I want to do to you later" mean? There was no innocent interpretation. Some of Olivia's work friends left immediately. Our friend stayed, and that's when it got worse. Edward pulled me aside, whispering that I was embarrassing him and that we should talk at home. I said no. I was done having private talks while he lied to my face. Olivia walked over, crying, telling me she understood I was upset but that I was making a scene. Maybe we could talk like adults. I nearly snapped. She acted like I was the problem. Like I was unreasonable for being furious that my husband had cheated for 3 years. I told her to stay away. She cried harder, saying she never meant for me to find out this way. And Edward, he comforted her. Right in front of me. His hand on her back, whispering it was okay, while I watched my marriage and friendship crumble in real time. The lawyer I spoke to said I'm in a solid position, especially since I have documented proof of the affair and our state actually takes that into account during divorce. Edward, meanwhile, is pushing hard for us to try before I do anything legal. He showed up at the house yesterday saying he needed to talk. The kids were with my sister, so I let him in. He spent 3 straight hours trying to convince me that what he has with Olivia isn't real love, that it just happened, and that our marriage is worth fighting for. I asked him why I should believe a single word he says after lying to me for 3 years. He said he knows he screwed up, but people make mistakes, and I have to decide whether I'm going to let one mistake define our entire relationship. I told him it wasn't one mistake. It was 3 years of deliberate choices, lying, cheating, and planning a future with someone else while pretending to be happy with me. He left around 9, but before he did, he said something I haven't been able to shake. He told me Olivia said I'd react exactly like this. That I'd never be able to move past it. Like they had already discussed my reaction to being betrayed. Like my pain was something they factored into their plans. Now I'm stuck wondering if I handled everything wrong. Should I have confronted them privately instead of at the party? Should I even consider giving Edward a chance to prove he can change? And is it crazy that part of me is angrier at Olivia than at him because she was my friend because she looked me in the eye for 3 years while doing this? There's more I haven't even touched yet. Things that came out after the party that made everything messy. But this is already long and I needed to get the basics out first. If anyone's been through something like this, I need to know how you handled it. I feel like I'm drowning, and I can't tell which way is up anymore. I'm here because this week has been insane, and I needed to get it out before I actually lost my mind. After my first post, Edward kept texting, asking to talk. At first I ignored him. Then I realized there were questions eating me alive. Not because I wanted to forgive him, but because I needed to understand how I lived inside a lie for 3 years without seeing it. My brain wouldn't stop spinning, and I figured the only way to shut it up was to hear the full truth, even if it wrecked me. I told him he could come over on Saturday. Lily was with my sister because I knew it would get ugly, and I didn't want them anywhere near it. He showed up at 9. The first thing he did was try to hug me, like we were friends, like everything was normal. I stepped back so fast I almost tripped and told him to sit down and keep his hands to himself. He looked hurt, and I almost laughed. He was hurt because I didn't want a hug. He sat on the couch and launched into his speech about how sorry he was, how the last few weeks had been the hardest of his life, how he couldn't sleep or focus. I let him talk for maybe 1 minute before I snapped and told him to shut up. I said I didn't want apologies. They meant nothing. I wanted answers. Real ones. And if he was going to sit there and feed me more BS, he could leave right then. He looked stunned. I don't think I'd ever told him to shut up in 10 years together. I asked him when it actually started with Olivia. Not the vague crap from the messages. The exact moment my best friend became something else. He started saying he didn't remember the exact date, and I cut him off. I told him to try harder. I said I spent 3 years not knowing what was happening in my own marriage, so the least he could do was give me details. Finally, he said it started after Lily's birthday party. Olivia stayed late to help clean up. They talked for hours after I went to bed. He said something shifted that night. I stood up so fast the table rattled. Lily's birthday. My daughter's birthday. While I was upstairs exhausted from hosting and caring for Lily, he was downstairs falling for my best friend. On my child's birthday. He tried to say something, and I told him I wasn't done. I asked when it became physical. He said that part didn't matter, and that knowing would only hurt me more. I screamed that I was already destroyed, so he might as well finish it. He said about 5 months later. The first time was at Olivia's apartment, when I thought he was at a work conference in Portland. I started pacing because I couldn't stand still anymore. I remembered that conference. I remembered him calling from the hotel, saying he missed me and Lily. I remembered the little dress for Lily. There was no conference. He spent 2 days with her, and then brought gifts for Lily. I asked if he picked it out himself, or if Olivia helped. He didn't answer. So she helped. I grabbed a pillow and threw it at him. I told him he was disgusting. He tried to say he knew. I said no. He didn't get to agree with me. He didn't get to act like we were on the same page. We would never be on the same page. I asked how many times. He said he didn't keep count. I told him to guess. He said once a month at first, then more often. Weekly over the past 9 months. I did the math aloud. At least 40 times. 40 times he slept with my best friend. 40 times he lied about where he was. 40 showers to wash her off before coming to bed with me. 40 times he looked me in the eye afterward, pretending nothing happened. He started saying he knew it was a lot. I told him to stop minimizing. A lot? Like we're talking about drinks at happy hour? This was my entire life he was lying about. I asked where. Mostly her apartment. Sometimes hotels with spa for special occasions. Special. They had anniversaries. I asked if he meant that. He went quiet. Asked again. Finally, he admitted they went away for a weekend to mark 1 year. I had to hold onto the chair because my legs went weak. When? Last September. I remembered last September. He told me he was going fishing with his friend Jake. I was happy for him. Thought he needed a guy weekend. Jake? Did Jake know? Did he cover for him? He said Jake knew they had marriage problems, but didn't know about Olivia. Problems in the marriage. So while I thought everything was fine, he was spinning a story where I was the bad guy, making sure no one judged him when he eventually left. I went straight to the kitchen. He followed, asking what I was doing. I grabbed his mug and threw it at his feet. I wanted everything that reminded me of him to disappear from my house. I didn't care if it was crazy. He tried to tell me to calm down. Calm wasn't an option. He backed up with his hands raised like I was some wild animal. Maybe I was. I didn't care. Then I asked the question that had been eating me alive. Did he love her? He started with some complicated nonsense. I said no. Not complicated, yes or no. Do you love her? He said yes. I felt punched in the gut. Even though I knew. Even though I had seen it in messages. Hearing it out loud was different. Then he said he also loved me. Like that was supposed to help. Like being loved alongside his mistress was some kind of prize. I asked which of us he loved more. He said that wasn't fair. I said life isn't fair. Answer the question. He said he couldn't compare. Different kinds of love. With me, history, family, comfort. With Olivia, passion, excitement, being seen. Asked if I made him feel invisible. He said that after we had Lily, I became so focused on motherhood that I stopped being his wife. That he tried to talk to me about feeling disconnected, but I was always tired or busy. I got in his face. Close enough to push him back against the wall. I told him I was tired because I was raising Lily. I was busy because I was holding our family together while working, managing a house, being everything to everyone. And instead of helping me or talking to me like an adult, he went to someone with no responsibilities, who had all the time in the world to make him feel special. He said he knew that now, that he made the wrong choice. I said no. He didn't make a wrong choice. He made 2 years of wrong choices. Every day he woke up and chose to lie. That was a lifestyle. I asked why he didn't just leave me. If he was so unhappy, if Olivia was so amazing, why stay? And this coward said he didn't want to lose our daughter. That if he left me for someone else, I'd make the divorce messy, and he'd end up a weekend dad. He said he was scared. So that made me his safety net. His comfortable backup plan. He got his excitement and passion with Olivia, while I kept his life running and Lily taken care of. He stayed not because he loved me, but because leaving was too complicated. I told him to get out. He tried to keep talking, so I opened the door and pointed. Get out. Now. He left, but he still said he wanted to work things out, that he'd give me space. Then I focused on practical issues. Met with my lawyer and told her I wanted to actually file, not just explore options. She started preparing the paperwork. Then Friday, I had lunch with Emily and Hannah. They told me something that made my blood boil. Hannah had run into Edward and Olivia at the shopping center. Not hiding, not sneaking, just shopping together, like a couple. Olivia rushed off when she saw Hannah, but Edward came over to say hi, like nothing was weird, like he wasn't there with his mistress. I called him the second I got home, didn't even take off my jacket. I asked if he'd been seeing Olivia. He tried to spin it, but I cut the BS. Had he or hadn't he been spending time with her? Yes or no? He admitted yes. They'd met a few times to talk about everything happening. I asked what the hell there was left to talk about. The affair was exposed. It was over. What conversations could they possibly need? He said he couldn't just cut someone he'd been close to for 3 years. That they needed to figure out how to handle things. I told him that was pathetic. You can't claim you want to save our marriage while shopping with your girlfriend. That's not how it works. He said I was being unreasonable, expecting him to flip a switch on 3 years of feelings. Unreasonable? I was unreasonable for expecting my husband to stop hanging out with the woman he cheated on me with. I told him he'd backed himself into this corner when he decided to sleep with my best friend. I was just refusing to let him escape. We argued for a long time. Him saying I wasn't being fair. Me saying fair died the moment he started the affair. Finally, he said he'd talk to Olivia in the near future and end it. I said I'd believe it when I saw it. That was Friday. Saturday, nothing. On Sunday at noon, Emily sent me a screenshot. Olivia had posted a picture on Instagram of her and Edward at cinema. She deleted it after 10 minutes, but Emily caught it. This was after he promised he'd end things. Then Edward texted me a long message saying he'd been thinking that I was right, that he was choosing his family. He sent it after spending the day with her. After the Instagram post. He thought I didn't know. Monday morning, I called my lawyer and told her to finalize everything. Papers would be ready by the end of the week. Edward kept texting, asking why I wasn't responding, claiming he meant what he said, asking to talk. I finally texted back that he could come over tomorrow morning. But I wasn't meeting him to negotiate or work things out. The divorce papers would be on the living room table when he walked in. He wanted time to figure things out? Well, I figured things out too. I realized I deserve better than being someone's safe option while he loves someone else. Tomorrow I end this. The conversation happened. Edward came over in the morning. Kids were at my mom's. The divorce papers were on the table, front and center. He saw them immediately. He asked if I was serious. I said completely. Done with the endless conversations. Done waiting for him to magically change. Done being the only one trying to save what he destroyed. And instead of apologizing or begging like he had for weeks, he got mad. He said I was throwing away our family over pride, that I cared more about being right than keeping our daughters in an intact home. He said Lily was going to grow up in a broken family because I couldn't get over myself. I told him our family had been broken the moment he started sleeping with Olivia. He said no. He said it was broken because I humiliated him at the party instead of handling it privately. We were still arguing about the party. Still mad at me for exposing him. I asked if he seriously thought exposing him was worse than what he did. He said it wasn't about worse. It was about me destroying his reputation and relationships with our friends when I could have come to him first. He said I cared more about revenge than our marriage. I told him I found out my husband was planning to leave me for my best friend, and his biggest concern was how it looked to everyone else. He tried to argue, but I talked over him. I was done letting him redirect every conversation. Then I brought up the Instagram post, the picture Olivia had posted of them at the cinema the same day. He texted me claiming he was choosing his family. I asked him to explain it. He said he went over there to end things. that the photo was taken before they talked. That Olivia was upset, posted it without thinking, and deleted it once she realized. Asked why they were taking cute pictures together if he was supposedly ending it. He went quiet, then said it wasn't that simple. They'd been together for 3 years. You don't just end something like that with one conversation. Because he owed her an explanation. Closure. He owed her. The woman he had spent 3 years cheating with. I asked him straight. Did he tell her he loved her during that conversation? He said I was trying to trap him with questions. I told him no. I just wanted a straight answer. Did he or didn't he tell Olivia he loved her when he went to end it? He dodged. Kept saying it wasn't relevant. I kept pressing. Finally, he admitted it. Yes. He told her he cared deeply, and that part of him would always love her. But he was choosing his family. That, he claimed, was his way of ending it. I laughed. That wasn't choosing me. That was keeping his options open while trying to have it both ways. Then he said something that made my blood boil. He told me I had to accept that feelings don't just vanish. He had spent 3 years building something with Olivia. Those feelings were real, even if the situation was wrong. If I expected him to pretend she meant nothing, I was asking him to lie again. And wasn't honesty the whole point now? His argument was that I should be grateful he was honest about still having feelings for his mistress. I told him to get out. He refused. Said he wasn't leaving until we resolved something because he was tired of every conversation ending with me shutting down. He said I owed it to our daughter to try. I screamed that he had no right to lecture me about what I owed to Lily. I was the one holding this family together while he was off with Olivia. The one who comforted Lily when she cried because everything felt different. I told him he forfeited the right to lecture me about our daughter the second he built a secret life with someone else instead of being present in the one he already had. He tried to interrupt. I told him to shut up. I told him I knew about the timeline. About the messages where he and Olivia planned to wait until Lily was in school full-time, how they'd eventually be together publicly. I told him he didn't stumble into some accidental emotional affair. He made a plan to leave his family. The only reason he was begging for another chance was because he got caught before he was ready. He tried to downplay it, said they were just talking, imagining possibilities, that it didn't mean he'd actually do it. I asked why he would even discuss it if he wasn't serious. Why have those conversations with Olivia if leaving me wasn't what he genuinely wanted? Then I asked one last thing. If I had never found that phone, would he still be with her? Still lying to me? Would he have eventually left, like they planned? He said he didn't know. Said he tried not to think about it. That it was complicated. He couldn't say for sure he wouldn't have left me. Even now, standing in my kitchen trying to save our marriage, he couldn't commit to saying he would have stayed. I picked up the divorce papers. Told him they'd be filed tomorrow. Told him he could send his lawyer's info to mine. I told him we could handle custody through mediation. But I was done with conversations like this. He grabbed my arm, said I was making a mistake I couldn't take back. That once it was done, and our family would never be the same. I told him our family had already changed the moment he chose her. Then I told him to get out of my house. He left. But before walking out, he turned and said that Olivia was the one who wanted to tell me. That she'd been pushing him to come clean for months, and he was the one who kept saying no. Like that was supposed to make me feel anything. Like knowing she wanted to confess somehow made this any better. I slammed the door behind him. The papers are getting filed tomorrow noon. I already confirmed with my lawyer. What gets me is that even at the very end, he couldn't just own it. He had to throw in that line about Olivia wanting to tell me. He had to make her look less like the villain. Even while trying to save his marriage, he was still protecting her. That told me everything I needed to know about who he had actually chosen. And now I'm free. Free from the lies, the betrayal, and the people who weren't worth my time. Life didn't magically fix itself overnight, but slowly, I started smiling again. I found joy in the little things, in my daughter, in friends who actually cared, and in myself. I'm stronger than I realized, and I'm glad it all came out. Because some people simply don't deserve a place in your life, and I finally had the courage to let them go. How do you think the story would have ended if I hadn't found the phone?